So I don't really know how to start a video like this, but I was robbed in Barcelona, and I know you're probably not very surprised to hear that, as it's so common. I think there's like 250 reported thefts in Barcelona per day or something ridiculous like that. But I've been 4 times now. It's my absolute favourite city, and nothing's ever happened up until this point. Someone who's like me, who's completely aware of the pickpockets and some of the scams, I was still completely fooled. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this video, one was because of all the messages, the floods of messages from the photography community, friends and family, all asking, you know, am I okay, what happened? So I want to just sort of break down exactly what happened to us so you can avoid anything like this whenever you go traveling, especially in Barcelona. Because it was a very particular, organised, targeted operation against us. So I think if you have a heads up, it would be extremely helpful. If I went to Barcelona knowing this particular type of scam, it would have been so obvious. But unfortunately, we were completely unaware. We just landed. We'd only been in Barcelona for half an hour when we were attacked, essentially. Not attacked, but robbed. There wasn't any violence, thankfully. It could have been a lot worse, right? But there wasn't any violence, thankfully, and it was just stuff that went and was taken. It was all of my photography gear, which I'll go into a bit later. And yeah, so I guess I'll start from the top just to break down so you guys can sort of see exactly what happened and where it happened, so you can be more vigilant when you're traveling. So we were staying in Passeig de Gracia, which is a very central part of Barcelona. If you're familiar with Las Ramblas, it's sort of just off of there. So yeah, we're staying in quite a heavily populated area and very central. And in order to get there, we landed at the second terminal in Barcelona. And normally, whenever I travel to Barcelona, I would opt for a taxi, especially when I've got loads of bags and things like that. I'd normally suggest, hey, let's get a taxi. But this time, we decided to not get a taxi and use the metro to save some money, which now in hindsight is not what happened at all. So yeah, we opted to get the metro, and in order to get to Passeig de Gracia, we needed to take 2 metros, so we needed 2 changes. I think we changed once at Europa Fira, and then again at Espanyol, and then to Passeig de Gracia. Now, we got on the metro on the first metro train to Europa Fira, which was our first change. And upon reflection, because when these things happen to you, you spend so much time just thinking back about, oh, what happened here? Maybe this is when it happened. Maybe this is when it started. And I do remember sitting on the train, and there was this one guy who kept looking over at me. But you know, I had just landed, we were so excited and in high spirits. It didn't really clock in my mind, and you know, more fool me for thinking that way. So we got off at Fira Europa, and weirdly, for a connecting train station to the airport, it was quite quiet, and I actually commented on the escalators. I said, isn't it weird how in London, doesn't matter where you are in London, every tube station's packed. It's always busy. Whereas this particular station, even though it's a connecting line from the airport, it was really dead. But anyway, we're on the escalator going up, and then not many people around. Get to the top, and I just get through the barriers to change to the next station, to get the train to the next station. And then I get a tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, what? Like, hey, what's up? Like, you don't expect people to talk to you. Like, when you travel around London, nobody talks to you, right? And to get tapped on the shoulder, I was already a bit like, huh? What do you want? And then there was this guy with a mask sort of halfway up his face, and he was talking in a language, and it sounded like broken English, but not really Spanish. It didn't sound like Spanish. But he was pointing at my back, and pointing at my girlfriend's back and saying, you know, whatever it was he was saying, oh, there's something there. And I was looking like, and turning around, and he keeps pointing at different areas, so I'm sort of like turning around, getting a bit disorientated, like, what are you looking at? Then I realised what happened was we were covered, our backs were completely covered in makeup foundation. You know, that sort of squirty makeup foundation? It was completely covered. And my first thought was, oh, like the makeup bag's exploded in one of the bags and it's gone all over us. So I was like, oh, so I then asked, is it on my back as well? And my back was covered. So then I was like, oh, I've got to take my bag off. So I took my bag off, put it down in front of me, and then this guy saw that, and he must have gone ding, bingo. So then he said, oh no, come out the way, come out the way. Because to be fair, we were like in the middle of the path. So it kind of made sense that we had to move out, get out of the way. So I was like, oh yeah, sure, of course. So I picked up my bag, I had my laptop bag and I had my camera bag. And I moved along to this pillar, it's a big pillar. Put my bag down. So it's literally, my bag is like next to me here. Now, I specifically remember him being this side of my bag, and then he walked all the way around to then face me. So my bag's here and he's in front of me. And then he starts getting right in my face and offering me tissue, saying, oh, do you want to clean yourself up, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm not a horrible person. I'm like, oh, thank you so much, it's really kind, thank you, I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. And he's like really like in your personal space, chatting loads, and being quite distracting. And in that moment, I'm disorientated. I'm a bit like, what is actually happening? You know, like 1 minute I'm traveling from the airport, next minute I've got this guy in my face talking to me randomly, talking to us randomly. Because he's come around this way, I'm facing towards him, and now this bit is completely in my blind spot. And like he's almost like in my face here, so I don't have any eyes on my bag at all now, which I hadn't even realised. So then he starts talking about the machine, and he starts talking about the ticket machine, and I'm like, and this is the point where I lost a bit of patience, and I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't need a ticket machine. I've got my ticket. I don't need it. And then he was like, okay, fine, and he offered another tissue, then he walked off, and he was gone. I was fine. So then I opened up my laptop bag because that's where the makeup was. And the makeup bag was completely fine. Like, everything was intact. There was no explosion, nothing. Then I looked down and I realised that my bag wasn't there. And I looked at my girlfriend and I said, have you got my bag? And she was like, no. And I was like, fuck. And that's when I knew. And he was long gone by then, but it wouldn't have even been him. He was the distraction while someone else comes and takes the bag. That bag would have been gone. The minute he come round this way and talked to me in my face, there would have been someone else gone, picked it up, gone straight through, and there was 3 exits he could have gone through. He could have gone straight through the barriers, he could have gone straight up the stairs, or he could have gone back on us and straight out the barriers that way. And by the time we realised, they were both long gone. And honestly, the distraction technique of covering you with makeup is quite a cunning idea, because if you're traveling on a plane, it makes sense that a makeup bag might explode. But yeah, and turns out after some research I did, it's quite a common scam. It's called La Mancha, or the stain. And the scammers work in groups, in pairs, and one of them will stain you, usually with like hot sauce or milk or foundation in this example. Whilst they offer to help you, you think they're helping you, giving you tissues and being nice. The other one is looking and waiting for the opportunity just to take the bag and run. And they were good, man. They got us. And so yeah, it was pretty devastating. It was a horrible feeling. I'll never forget that moment of panic, of that sinking feeling of suddenly realising everything was gone. Now, luckily, I had my passport in my pocket, I had my phone in my pocket and my wallet. So that was all intact, and I still had my laptop bag. That was really reassuring to me. But then I started to, when you start to do this sort of, you go through the filing cabinet in your brain of what you had in that bag. And I had my Canon EOS R, I had my 70 to 200 2.8 lens, I had my 16 to 35 2.8 lens, both Pro L series lenses. I had SD cards, all of my clothes for the trip. The only clothes I had were what I was wearing, which was covered in makeup, including my shoes, and it had the car keys in there as well. So pretty devastated that it was all gone. Oh, and my tripod, which we'll get to in a second, and my actual bag itself, which was the Wandered Provoke bag, was all gone. Now, on topic of the Wandered Provoke bag, those bags are designed to not look like camera bags, right? So when you strap a tripod to the side of it, it kind of defeats the object of what the Wandered bag is meant to look like. But in this instance, you know, I'm not asking to be robbed. There's a tripod pouch on the bag if you need it, right? And in this instance, I needed to bring my tripod and I needed to attach it to my bag. Unfortunately, that was like a beacon, a blinking lighthouse for these thieves. They saw the tripod and thought, I wonder what else is in that bag. And they knew what they wanted. They targeted us, and they got what they wanted. So yeah, it was absolutely horrible. But if I'd have known about this stain scam when I went there, it would have been so obvious. As soon as he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, you've got something on your back," you'd know straight away. You go, yeah, go away. Like, leave me alone. You've done that, mate. So if it ever happens to any of you, and that happens, and you're covered in something, hot sauce, milk, they say you've been pigeon poo or whatever, you'll know immediately that that person who's tapped you on the shoulder is the one who's done it. So please be vigilant. So that's what's happened to us. Yeah, so please be aware. And for those asking, no, I did not have theft cover. I only had damage cover on all of that gear. Silly me. I know it's so foolish of me to not have any type of theft cover on my gear. It was always something that I was like, oh yeah, I need to get around to do that. I need to get around to adding theft cover to all my gear. Never did it. So if there's one takeaway to the photography community, insure your gear for theft, please, because it will save you fortunes. I've done some research now, and you're going to be paying about £8 a month to insure your gear, and it doesn't take long. So yeah, do some research, have a look. I don't really know many. A lot of people suggest PhotoGuard, so I'm going to look into those. But yeah, get your stuff insured, because it will save you a fortune, trust me. And I consider myself quite aware. I'm a very aware person, and I'm constantly checking my phone, checking my bag, making sure there's no one looking around. But it's in that one moment that you're not paying attention, or they know how to distract you. So it doesn't matter how aware you are. If they know how to distract you, they've got it. They've got what they want. They do this every day. They do this every day, multiple times. So just, I know it's not easy, but just try and be extra vigilant when traveling on the metro in Barcelona. But they're skilled at it. That's what they do. And a tiny moment for them is everything to me, and I lost everything. So don't let that happen to you, please. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for all the messages. There was a couple of GoFundMes that were raised, which was so sweet. Honestly, thank you so much. Did not expect that. I did not expect people to donate to me, especially during these times where it's like the crisis of the cost of living is so high, and people were still giving me and donating me money towards my camera gear, which is so sweet. So yeah, thank you so much for that, and all the messages from friends and family just helping me out, and it made it a lot easier to deal with, a lot easier to handle. So thank you very much. I don't really know how to close the video off. Just be careful, get your gear insured straight away, like get it insured now. And yeah, thanks. I'll see you later.